neighborhood.
Best real estate ever.
Best real estate ever. So, who remembers what about at-home realty? Mackenzie, you were eager to talk about it last week.
Wait, what was the question though?
Well, what do you remember? What stands out to you? Like,
well, there was a lot of negative reviews. That's the first thing that stood out. But I think it's like what the real estate group said back was worse than what the negative reviews meant. Like,
right.
Just very sassy and like more like arguing than apologizing.
Right.
And very funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it was designed for a case study, right? About how not to handle angry customers.
Yeah, I was like, Grace, is this real or like did they write this?
Yeah, no,
It's
real.
voices and we read it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had an exercise around this. Do you guys have worksheets? Did we have that printed out from a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Who has it?
Damage control on the top, and then there's steps to remedy.
So, steps to remedy. So, did you guys role play? Did you guys do any role playing of what you could have done better?
We didn't have
No, I mean like in the outside. So,
Yeah.
do you guys want to reprise your role play for us?
Oh, we didn't we just talked about ideas. We didn't actually do a full role.
Yeah.
I would love for you to give us an example of what you remember. You don't have to do it straight from here, but like since you guys spent some time with it, would one of you play the angry customer and one of you play the ineffective at-home realty employee trying to deal with them?
Of course you will. Okay.
Come on up, let's go.
So I can complain about anything?
Yeah, I mean, just think about, you don't have to do exactly this, but just recall, like, what it was that these people were complaining about and, like, just your best impression of one of them, or whatever.
Before they get into that,
Yeah.
we have to know that this never happened. Because one of the things they're criticized for is that they never show up.
Right.
So it's always on the phone or maybe a message.
Okay,
so
okay.
Be on the phone.
But-
I'll be on the phone. I'm gonna be on the phone.
Okay.
I'm gonna ring like 10 times. Hello?
Hi, this is Alicia. I'm one of your tenants. I've been calling like 10 times trying to complain, and it's the first time I've been able to reach someone.
Alicia, we told you to call the plumber last time when we sent you an email. When you sent us an email 10 times, we told you that we can't do anything. Maybe your toilet is sweating. It's not an actual leak, Alicia.
I did call the plumber, and the plumber came and questioned me and made me feel really offended, like I was lying or something. Why would I lie about this? Why would I want to live with a broken toilet? Do your job.
I'm sorry, Alicia, but that's the plumber's job. It's not the real estate job.
I'm moving.
All right, very good. Is that what people remember from this at-home realty? Does anybody want to take a stab at being much better at this than at-home realty really was? Who thinks they can do better than these folks did when Alicia called about the sweating toilet? Somebody's got to volunteer. All right, Abe. Let's go. Do you want to be the complaining customer again?
Alright, I'll be the complaint customer, but I'm gonna stay 7 because I'm lazy.
Okay, so before we go into this, what do you think is important to do to handle this customer? Remember, this conversation is happening publicly, right? You might end up with a case study in some business class of people talking about what not to do, right? So, so what's going to be important when you have an irate customer calling you? What do you think is important?
I think just telling them what they want to hear, in the sense of that they're complaining, so don't give them what they want to hear. Saying that, oh, I'm sorry, it was our fault, we should have done this, and like maybe find a way to leave them on a good note, like, oh, we'll do this next time for free or something like that.
well, what if you guys are really strapped for cash? You don't really have the money to send. You know that toilet's sweating. You know you can't do anything about it. What if you like, you know it's going to cost your company money if you go over there and send somebody again. You know, you're getting kind of tired of this, and she could end up costing you loads of money if you answer her every call. Does anybody else want to pipe up too?
They admit that they were there 3 times in the course of a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So would it really cost them that much when they're over there anyways to pop in and confirm whether or not it is a sweating problem or indeed a leak?
Yeah.
But you can't brush people off. You've got to acknowledge that that maybe there is a problem and deal with it.
All right. Good advice. Any more advice before we role play it? Yeah.
I worked in the food service industry, and like some advice they always gave us was to like be super empathetic. So if something bad happens to a customer, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like you must be so frustrated, or like I can see how you'd be really upset, or be like, oh, I can't imagine like how annoying that is. Like let me help you out, and really like putting yourself there with them, so then you're like suddenly on that person's side, and they don't have anyone to yell at. It's just like someone to commiserate with. Really supporting them too.
Sounds like good advice. All right. You ready to role play? All right.
Alright, I'm calling, okay?
Okay.
Ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Hi, this is Alicia in apartment 3B. I was just calling because, well, I called you like 10 times in the past 2 weeks and it's getting really annoying because nobody's ever picking up. But I also sent you an email and you guys keep telling me that nothing's wrong with my toilet, but I know something's wrong with my toilet. And the plumber didn't do anything.
Well, first off, I want to apologize, and it must be really annoying you having to call 10 times. I am sorry for that. And we'll see what we can do to the best of our ability to try to fix that plumbing situation. Once again, I want to apologize.
So like when can you fix it? Because
well, we'll have that.
you can't say you're gonna call me back because I've been calling you 10 times. Nobody's picking up. I'm not gonna trust you if you say you're gonna call me back.
We apologize, and we hope that well, we'll be there as soon as possible.
I don't know. That sounds a little sketchy, but
We'll be there. What time is it? I will be there around in about an hour.
okay, that sounds good. I'll call you 20 times if you don't. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
There you go. All right. So now you're sitting down and you're doing your nightly reviews on Yelp. And what are you gonna write about this company tonight?
I'm gonna say, although they have been a little bit unreliable at first, I did get in contact with a good agent who seems to offer a little bit more support, and the plumber did come on time, and a better plumber this time, and he helped me.
Mm-hmm.
So it would still be a mixed review because you still have that bad service, but then it kind of like they reviewed themselves.
Right.
Is this typical of this sort of service industry, that they kind of take your money and then disappear and don't really deal, or is it?
Well,
just
this was kind of an easy target because the rental industry in Boston, this
Crazy.
probably is really typical.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a bunch of.
Can I
Yeah.
problematize a little bit more here? So what happens when your co-op is really in the right and
Mhm.
something happens and the customer is really feeling like they've been, wronged, but you also feel like you've been wronged as, your co-op did whatever they could. Future Focus had an incident. I know Diggers have had an incident already like that. We made a video for United Way, and a couple people there decided they didn't like the style, didn't use it, and didn't want to pay us for it. And though they were in the room when they could have told us to change the style, whether people are looking at the camera or to the side, and we didn't. We felt that it was such industry standard stuff we were producing, high quality stuff we produced for them. We didn't want to back down and say, "You're right, we're sorry, we won't charge you."
Matt,
we
did
still
it
wanna-
go this route though? Was it,
They didn't blast us,
okay.
but they won't use us again. They might have told other people in United Way,
Right,
because they were
I
just
just-
like one wing. They told other people in United Way, then maybe other
That's a
people
good,
might not come back
that's a
to
really
us.
good point. Like, you know, we use Yelp as an example because it's so public, but in reality, people are out there talking about your business, you know? And the word of mouth can be even, you know, even more important than the public stuff on the internet. So if people are unhappy with your service and are out there talking to people about it, that's even worse for you, I think, than this public stuff.
I was just gonna say, was an example that I experienced. I went to, or because Mackenzie was saying like, oh, you can have a bad experience and like even if you fix it, it's still be a mixed review.
Yeah.
But I've had an experience where a business did such a good job with damage control that it actually turned into like, I talk about them all the time. I went to a Longhorn Steakhouse. This is like kind of weird, but I'm
Damage
vegetarian.
control,
Yeah. And the person I was with, they messed up their order, and so he like sent the order back, and they replaced the order right away. They didn't ask any questions. They like replaced the sides, even though the sides were fine. Then they got us a free dessert. It was like a free triple play dessert, and then they gave us gift cards to go to the movies. It was like the most.
So how much?
Apologize
This is a
again,
really
thank
good
you.
example.
I would just lie.
So I
about
talk about
it.
Longhorn Steakhouse all the time now, and it's like a steakhouse chain, and I'm vegetarian. But I'm
Right.
always like, you will never get treated as well there, even though it's a chain, even though it's a
Okay, but
meat
here's the
place.
thing. How much do you think that cost them to do all that for you?
Under $30.
Under $30. And
And
how
how
much
much-
do you think what they would have paid for you to do an advert like you just did to all 30 of us in here?
Oh, a lot more. And I think the business
That was
would've
pretty
lost
cost
if they-
effective, huh? For all the people you've been talking to about Longhorn Steak, that was a really good investment, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And for, you know, so for United Way, what was their calculation? You know, what was your calculation for them? If you had redone the video until they were happy, you might have spent thousands of dollars doing that. But what could it have meant to you in terms of United Way going around singing your praises and telling everybody how great you are? Do you think it might have ever been worth it?
Well, it was 2 days before the event. They told us they wanted it changed, so we did just an audio version, which was the only compromise we could come up with at the time, which they ended up not using. And then they didn't get back to us, and so we told them again, and then they let us know that they were unhappy about it. And I guess at that point we could have apologized and not billed, and we said, you're right, you know, but we'd already spent money out of pocket on it. We said we think we still deserve this. We understand you're not, you know, you don't like the product, but we think we did the best we could do under the circumstances. And now we're thinking of writing a letter and explaining so that other people in United Way know what happened. But I don't.
Did you have a contract with them? Just
No. It was a small one, and now we have an agreement that we do contracts
yeah.
for every little.
That sounds good. That story's giving me a headache. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I had a, so I think it's just stepping back, not being a part of that process, it seems like it's worth it to take a loss if the customer is somebody who can get the word out, who's going to get the word out.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have customers that are really crazy, you know, and in that case, I mean, I think it's just, it's hard to come up with a, you know, with a policy that works in all situations, because you can't, and with the diggers, I mean, we had a customer who was really crazy, I don't think there's anything that we could have done, although I'm not part of those negotiations, but from what I understand, and we looked into her too, and she's not somebody who you can negotiate with.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So a couple of things come out there, right? A business that I worked at also had that same experience. There were two different customers that we worked for who didn't like us, didn't like our work, and were very public about it. And one, we thought she was totally unreasonable, and there was nothing we could have done to please her. And when we did a little bit of research on her later, we found out that like she had been a lawyer who had been disbarred, and she was accused of all these wrong things about taking money from people, and she seemed like a kind of a dishonest person. There's some contractors who will never work for lawyers ever. Even nice ones, you know. But then there was this other person that we worked for who was like, we're billing ourselves as a green remodeling company. And she was like, the director of recycling programs for like the western suburbs, for like, you know, Newton and Needham and all the places that we worked. And she didn't like our work, and she wrote us a review on Angie's List saying that she didn't like our work, and we had never been on Angie's List before, and it was our first and only review on Angie's List, and it was devastating. We were like, oh, our name is mud now, and it was worth it to our company to go back to her, and like, even though we knew she was wrong, even though we thought she was being unreasonable, even though she was walking around the job site barefoot with nails on her, you know, we had to make it right for her because of like how we wanted her friends and neighbors as our customers, you know. So I mean that's kind of a depressing way to look at it, you know. But you could also look at it in terms of like nice people and not nice people.
So
but you're
what
right, you
about
have
the
to be
lawyer?
strategic. We walked away from that, and we kind of counted on, you know, it's like if somebody's saying bad things about you and everybody knows bad things about them, it kind of, you know, this double negative makes it maybe look good for you. But yeah, it's a case by case thing.
I was wondering, Matt, for the other way, I don't know if you think this would be a bad idea, but maybe if you set up a meeting with the person who you hired and sort of explain to them like all the effort you put in, and you know, this is your perspective, and then also like got more of their feedback and say like, look, we're not concerned about the fee, but we just want to like figure out what went wrong in this relationship and how we can stop it from happening again, and like repair the bridges, and like really trying to make things right with them so that they could be your ambassador in the United Way to try and get other clients.
Maybe.
Even if it was
I tried to do that 3 times with them over the phone, and maybe in person would have been better, but because I felt like they were being so like entitled and like unreasonable with me, I lost patience quickly, and she also lost patience pretty quickly and said, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I said, at one point I was like, well, maybe we should get a third party opinion on this. You know, we could show the film and see if you know, like I wasn't suggesting full mediation, but I was like, we should get maybe a third opinion. She's like, I don't want to spend any more money. I'm going to pay it, but I just want you to know that we were not pleased at all.
So then
And
she did.
she hung up. What?
Then she did an opinion after that, or no?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good for me.
Yeah.
But it was like $300, and you know, it could have been.
Yeah.
I hope she didn't close the door to all of possible, you know, United Way as a client in the future. And so that's what we're more worried about, and we're thinking of writing a letter and stuff. But
Yeah. All right. Well, this is good stuff, and I think we could like spend a lot more time on this, but we've got too much stuff to get through, and I want to move on. But yeah, you guys hit on all the important stuff. Let's see. So let's see. Some of the financial exercises we had. We had the overhead expenses exercise, and we had the break-even point exercise. How are people doing on those overhead expenses? Not so much. Over here. Anybody did their overhead expenses? What's the barrier to this overhead expenses exercise? Is it too hard to do?
Very hard to get members of the co-op together to do the homework. So if there's just 1 or 2 people and they're not the ones who are doing the books, it's, you know, we just have to carve out the time.
Okay. Is your co-op meeting regularly?
We meet regularly, but we have other business, so
Right, yeah.
we now we're trying to meet before our regular meetings, rather than on a separate day.
That's our issue too.
Okay.
We're like still in operation, so
Right.
we have like 20 minutes in our meetings to like
Okay.
talk about the homework or like do a teach back for people who aren't at the co-op
Yeah.
academy. So we're kind of saving a lot of these activities for winter when we slow down.
Okay. All right.
Or maybe for those 2 weeks at the end if we have team working time.
Go back here a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to get everyone from our co-op to the last.
Okay. That sounds good.
All of our overhead is going to be it'll be just a percentage of the organizational one, so I'm going to do it based on our budget. I have to work with our accountant to do it. So we used the homework time this week to make our display board for Sage because
Okay.
it was a little more urgent. But so we didn't do it, but we feel like we're in a good place to do it easily.
Okay. Did you guys bring your display boards?
No,
Okay.
that's why I'm leaving a little early tonight to get the photos for it, but we have
Okay.
started
That's
having downloaded the fonts.
Did anybody else bring stuff tonight that they're going to show at Sage on the weekend?
We're working on it tomorrow.
Okay. Great. So no homework is happening this week either. What were you?
Well, we did our overhead projections for
Yep.
Future Focus, but the challenges we had was figuring out how much marketing labor we'd want, marketing and management and sales, and how much of that in which. And since we, until now, haven't been paying anyone for that work at all, when we had, youth summer jobs funding, then they were doing some of the sales work, and so far people have just been putting in sweat equity on that. So we put in like a dream budget, but we have no idea if we'd be able to make, make that up.
Okay.
We
So
don't know
for
what's
that,
good, what's a good proportion or anything like that.
Okay, so for that, it's going to be important to track all your sales activity as you're doing it. And a lot of people do that. They do their initial sales activity like before the business starts operating, and you like never record that time, But it would be a really good practice to record that time, even if you're not getting paid for it, because that's giving you metrics that you can then use later. So the kind of metrics that you're looking for are like, how many hours of sales does it take me to actually, turn out these customers? Like, how many people can I reach with this marketing tactic? When I buy a Google ad, how many hits do I get? How many leads do I get through that? So if you're tracking all this stuff, that's going to be the information that you need to make a good estimate about that in the future. So there's only the only thing you can do is make your best estimate, start collecting those metrics until make better forecasts as you go along, little by little. And it's like every year you'll get better at it. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions about the Sage presentation. Is that supposed to be a poster board, or is this going to be projected?
Poster board.
It's poster board. And then are we supposed to follow the sheet, respond to the sheet prompts, or can we take the assignment more generally as trying to say who we are, what we do, and where we are in the process of becoming the co-op?
You can do whatever you think is useful for your co-op, but as much as possible, if we try to get that information out for each co-op, then people can look at it kind of systematically and give us some feedback. But whatever you think you can do.
All right.
What time of the sort of panel we're doing boards on Sunday?
The boards can be up throughout the whole conference.
Yeah.
And then the presentation part, where people can give a little pitch and stuff, is Sunday right after lunch.
Okay, so one.
I think so. Yeah, I think 1 o'clock.
All right. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody get to the point of? Is that clock? I'm confused.
That's right.
That's like 6:20?
Yeah.
It looks like 5:20. Okay. So did anybody do the break-even point worksheet? You probably weren't able to if you didn't do the overhead expenses. Did anybody make a stab at it? Yeah.
You did, but I don't know. So how do you incorporate your grant funding into, what if you have grant funding that's putting you in black right away?
Okay, so you need to count. So your books right now are going through the books of the nonprofit, right? The books, are they like tracked separately at all?
Yeah, they're tracked separately.
Tracked as a separate class or something?
But right now, we haven't been producing for a while, but we were profitable when we stopped, and then after we stopped, we've gotten grant funding in addition to that to pay for all of our permitting and startup costs, that even once those are paid for, we still have like material so that we could start without having to go in the red.
Does the nonprofit have an accountant that you're working with?
Yeah.
Is the accountant aware of all these issues?
Well, she just tracks she just has tracked the hot sauce sales separately, but she did.
But the expenses for the hot sauce?
Yeah, there's a separate line item for those. But the line item, that's what I'm saying, the line item is covered.
So that's a little complicated. I mean, you should be tracking your income and expenses as if it was a separate business. And what I would advise you to do is like do the books for Drop It Like It's Hot Sauce as if it was a separate business, and then if you get income that subsidizes the operations of the business, you need to show that as income on your books.
I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. So it's a separate, so there's an organizational budget, and then there's like a program budget for youth
Yep.
growth, and then the co-op has its own subset of line items within that, and so all the co-op
Is it
expenses.
a separate column or a separate rows?
Separate rows.
Okay, so it should be a separate column. I want to see a separate column.
Okay.
And you could, just like Youth Grow has a separate column, then Drop It Like It's Hot Sauce should have a separate column. We can talk more about the mechanics of how you actually do that. Do you do your, how do you do your bookkeeping? Is it in
It's
QuickBooks?
well, the accountant uses QuickBooks, but then internally I just use Excel, and then I can pull a QuickBooks report through her, but
Okay.
it just comes out not digestible because it's all food justice programs. So.
Okay. Alright, sounds like that could be some work. I need to address that one-on-one. Did you have?
We're in a pretty similar situation in terms of having it be under the umbrella of a nonprofit, and we do some of those things we were saying. I'm not sure what you mean by column versus row, and we're trying to set up QuickBooks on our own rather than having an accountant so we can actually engage with it directly rather than just getting spreadsheets sent to us.
Yeah, I agree
from
either
someone
because we list our line items in rows, not in columns. So it's a row, but it's like the line items are listed this way, and then the daily expenses are across the top.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We get separate spreadsheets for each separate account in the books.
Yep.
So the co-op is its own cost center.
Did you make up the system? Is it a spreadsheet?
It's the accountant has been tracking it for us. I have, since it's hard to work with because we get from the accountant, I have my own set of books that I've been keeping, just tracking all of our income and expenses with that, and then kind of compare between the two of them to line them up.
Okay. So, let's see. So the mechanics of actually doing bookkeeping are not part of what we meant to cover in the Co-op Academy, but and I can't imagine finding space to add it. But I mean, I wonder if we could find a way to do a separate training or something like that. Because like, I agree that you guys can do your own bookkeeping. You can use QuickBooks. I usually advise people to use QuickBooks online because it's a really easy way to like communicate with your accountant. At the end of the year, your accountant has access to your books online. You don't have to email a huge file or anything like that. And I can help you with that, but maybe another time. I don't know.
ABC, a bookkeeping cooperative, is planning to do a training
Right.
for Stone Soup, and we might be able to open that up a little bit, or expand it, especially if other groups can kick in a little bit. And we actually just asked them about that because we've been using a desktop version of QuickBooks
Yep.
in Stone Soup, and we said, okay, we're ready to go online and connect with you and work on these collaboratively, and they said, no, don't go online, it's slower and it doesn't have as many reporting features. Stick to your desktop version and we'll share a file. But
Yeah.
that's just one or two people's opinion. So yeah, I think there's pluses and minuses to both ones, but if we want to collaborate on a basic bookkeeping training, that might be a potential, and hopefully we'll have people from ABC next week Skyping in finally.
Yeah, that would be great. That sounds awesome. I want to come to that too. Okay, well.
So we did it. We did our
great.
break-even point.
Okay.
But what we found from that is that we needed many more units than we thought was feasible. So
Mhm.
we then went back and added more kinds of units and our cost of goods. So we added, now we have like 6 different cost of good worksheets, and that's a lot to track. And we're like portioning, we think we'll do about, a third of this kind of sale and then a third of this kind of sale. So I don't know if that's the direction we should go, but we have like a film festival event, very different from a audio PSA. They're like
Yeah.
really different.
I think that's fine. I mean, that's getting about, you're bumping up against, that if you get more than 6 cost of goods worksheets, I think that's too many. But I think it's pretty reasonable if you have all those different products that you're actually offering people to do it that way. So, do you want to walk us through your break-even point worksheet? Did people understand the concept behind the break-even point worksheet? Basically, it's like when you did the cost of goods worksheet, everybody did that, right? So you know, like, you know your income and your expenses for every unit of your product or service that you're offering, basically, right? And then the question is on the break-even worksheet is how many units do you have to sell to cover your overhead expenses? That's basically what that worksheet is telling you. I'm seeing some writing on your pages. Did you guys get started on this at all, or not so much?
No, but that was just putting back to the cost of goods workshop, worksheet was at that one,
Okay.
and some rough notes, but nothing to correct the point, just figuring it out.
Okay. So this is going to be pretty key. So for you guys, I would like you guys to be able to walk away from Co-op Academy with like a set of financials, a set of budgeted financials for the next few years.
I'm lost on that.
Okay. How can I get you unlost? What's the sticking point? Let's talk about it.
I don't know. I have an income and cost of goods worksheet that Abe completed. But I don't know how to get to the next step. I'm wondering if we should work with our mentor on that rather than take up time here.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping you guys will do. Are you guys set up to meet with your mentor soon?
So our mentor has been in touch with us.
Okay.
But unless I didn't put it on the agenda for our last meeting. So we have to figure out how to find a time when we can either Skype in with them or do something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and
I'll try to walk through this in a way that makes sense. So I think this is where we started, right? The cost of good, right? So we, for example, make one 10-hour video, right? And then we just spend about $5.30 on that. And we pay people about 184, and then we added 15% or what is it? So we pay people $16 an hour, and with the labor burden, it's 18. And so all labor together is 184. And then we add those costs from up above. What we also did was take Stacy's worksheet and added these equations in here, so it pulls down the numbers. So I can share this with people if that's useful.
So your unit is 10 hours of work?
10 hours, yeah, of work. So point one, so each person that works an hour is doing 0.1 of the whole product, right? That's why we use 0.1 here. We tried like 1 hour of video work, but it didn't work out as well when we did it that way, because it wasn't a full product. I don't know if that relates to other people. So 62% gross margin, about $310 of gross profit on a $500 video, right? And then we have other products like a $200 smaller PSA. We have a $3,000 wedding, larger project, but lower gross margin on that, but a larger gross profit.
Matt, I have a question.
Yeah.
I might have just missed this, but when you're estimating the labor costs per job, so if you tell someone you're making a 10-minute video, do you have like a fixed amount of labor that you'll provide to do a 10-minute video, or wouldn't that fluctuate?
Yeah, so we estimate we'll do a video, it's about this length. We estimate it'll take about 10 hours. Okay, that'll fit into this column, this kind of product.
So what do you do if a job takes more than the time that you estimated?
We get less profit.
You just eat the profit.
Yeah, cause we quote and then we can't really bill a lot more than what we quoted, for the final product, yeah. And if we do it quicker, then we don't bill less.
And then over time, if you realize they're consistently underbilling, then you can go back into this worksheet and change your cost of goods.
Do you have you're doing contracts now?
Yes, we have,
Do you
we
have
have an
a-
extensive wedding contract with one.
Right, but well, not so much as in a wedding, because that's sort of boom and it happens, but if someone comes to you halfway through your shoot, like happened, and said, look, we don't like the direction this is going, we need you to rework it, can you then bill them more for that?
Yeah, we'd have to do some sort of amended contract, yeah.
Okay.
We haven't done that yet, so if anyone else has, that would be useful. So then, a 12-hour to make TV show. So one of the members is planning to do a TV show under our cooperative. So that'll pull in about 75% gross margin profit. But anyway, so then we took an average of these and plugged them into our break-even spreadsheet.
How do you do that to compile the different cost of goods?
So we made this crazy equation where we're pulling, and we put them all into one spreadsheet on the bottom so that it would pull from the other sheets. Again, we can share this, but so we did like this total of cost of goods, and then we thought we'd do about 80% of that kind of product, right? So that's 0.8. And then we added it to this other one that was like, we do about 10% of that, and then 10% of this. We haven't added the 2 or 3 other
So
ones.
it's a weighted average based on how much.
About how many of those kind of products we do over the year, course of the year. It was we just had to estimate that.
Why is your overhead expenses the same as your gross profit?
That should be.
Well,
Hint, it's the same.
so this worksheet is determining your break-even point, right? And break-even point means that you make exactly enough money as you need to cover your overhead expenses.
Okay.
So this is saying that you would need to turn out 100 videos per year to break even?
Exactly. This is the number that this spreadsheet gives us, right? This is how many units we're gonna have to do a year to actually make it break even.
That's kind of rough though, right? Because 100.
Right. That's why we went back and started adding more larger projects. We realized, okay, we can't do that many projects. We'll have to add more larger projects. Even if we get less gross profit per project, we're gonna have to do fewer.
So that's really helpful then for you guys.
Right. So this is again an average price per unit, and this is an average gross profit per unit, and this is our break-even point, just following the directions in the spreadsheet. But this is also pulling from our overhead. So we went through our overhead, and we just estimated. We went line by line and said, I think it'll take about this. And then we got to the end, and we're like, whoa, that's too much. We can't spend $15,000 on marketing labor the first year. Let's bring it down to 10, right? So does
Future Focus Media operate like completely separately from Worcester Roots, or are you just
Not yet.
estimating? So these are all like the percentage of the Worcester Roots overhead that you contribute?
No, this is planning to incorporate it in year 1.
Oh, okay. So that's what it would be if you are now.
Right.
It's like paying for their office space instead of student.
Yeah.
Do
So
you
yeah,
use
we'd
that?
have less overhead if we stayed under the nonprofit for sure. We wouldn't have to pay separate insurance and a lot office supplies we could use more of and things like that. But
Going back to what Steve was saying before, it's a row, not a column in Mr. Woods' budget. Like it's still like a line item that's like we put this much to the co-op and then we like take this much out of the co-op. We don't track our expenses inside of the total Mr. Woods budget.
Right.
and we also had thought that we need a loan so that also the overhead also pulls from our pulls the number from what was it amortization, right, and the depreciation. So we had to do that worksheet first. Remember, we all did that together, and that got pulled into our overhead. So then it all gets pulled together in this break-even worksheet.
Judy, you're nodding. Is it making a little more sense?
Yeah, until he said he went back to the amortization.
Yeah.
So we took a number, we did the amortization worksheet, and then we just took the final number and plugged it in here where it says amortized, where is it? Depreciation and amortization. That's all we did. We just took that one number from that other worksheet and plugged it in right here. So
Yeah.
we could add that as another tab and have it pull.
Yeah, so we haven't completed that worksheet yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of worksheets that come together.
Did this come in tabs or did you just do that?
I did that, and I can share this. That's what I used.
That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, how many people are really confident about using either Excel or like the Google Doc version of Excel? Yeah, okay, good enough. So how many people feel like they can get in there and move around?
One
Okay.
per co-op.
How many people have no idea what I'm even talking about right now? Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. So I would say most of you have the capacity to do this stuff, and it's like little chunk by chunk. And if you, yeah.
Oh, I have an Excel, I have the Excel for Dummies guide, if anyone wants to borrow it. It's actually really, really helpful.
You have a what?
It's the textbook, it's called Excel for Dummies, which is a little insulting. But I'm better now than I was, but I got it, and even though it's a little bit outdated, it's really helpful for this kind of stuff, and it's broken down, so you don't have to remove lots, you can just kind of go in. If anyone wants to borrow it.
Yeah. So this is gonna be, I would say that this would be really useful for you guys to learn how to do. To put your budgets in, I use Google Docs for everything now, or Google Drive. It's basically got the same way as QuickBooks Online it's true it's not as good as the QuickBooks Desktop, but it's like if you're ever in danger of losing, you really cannot ever lose your books. Don't ever lose your books. So if your hard drive fails, if you're not great at backing up your drives, then I would either get great at backing up your drives or move your stuff online. Because you can lose a lot of stuff, but you don't want to lose your bookkeeping.
And if
So-
you share it with the NSA, you can get it anytime.
I mean, the NSA is all in our business right now. There's nothing we can do about that in the Coop Academy. That's what so here's an example of a business that I've been working with that has, this is to give you an example of how complicated this can get. This is probably the most complicated pro forma spreadsheet I've ever done. And this is, I guess I don't really mind showing it to you because this is all imaginary. If this was real, I probably shouldn't show it to you. So we have this whole assumption sheet that actually shows us like all the assumptions that we're making about how many customers we're going to serve, what is going to be the cost to serve each customer, what's going to be, the price that they pay, and all of these numbers that we've spent months and months and months going over and researching and saying, okay, what is the price, what is cardboard going for these days? What is raised vegetable oil going for these days? And this is a huge sheet of assumptions here. So from that, we created our profit and loss statement. And this is where I'm trying to get you guys to. I want you guys to be able to create your profit and loss statement that shows your income, your direct costs, your cost of goods sold, your gross profit and your gross profit margin, right? And then your overhead expenses with your net profit at the end. Okay? This business doesn't make a profit until year 4. And that's something that happens sometimes. Year 4 is pretty dramatic. That's a little risky, but it's pretty common to not make a profit until your 2nd or 3rd year of business. So that's why you have to do this financial forecasting.
Wow, that's a lot of money you have to have.
Exactly. So then what we want to get to, so I need you guys to get through these worksheets if you want to do this for your business. And I want to help you, get through them so that they actually mean something to you. Once we've done the profit and loss sheet and the balance sheet, actually once we've done the profit and loss sheet, then we're going to do our cash flow sheet. And the cash flow tells you exactly what you're talking about. How much cash do you need to start with so that you can survive all this like losing cash from operations? We don't start gaining cash from operations until year 4. So how much do we have to start with? This is so critical to know. This business is going to fail if we start without enough cash, right? Anyway, so this is just to give you a sense of like what these tabs look like. Okay. Sorry. How about you guys? Where are you at in the process?
In terms of financials?
In terms of financial stuff.
So
you said you were going to spend time on it later.
I had done this when we were starting out like a year ago.
Okay.
I think a lot of this kind of, but just like in a more basic form, but
Yes.
doing like a budget and kind of like projected incomes for different things and expenses. So now we need to like go back through it and be like, okay, looking at this year, what happened? What can we look at for next year and the year after?
Okay.
So it seems like we need to do this in the next week.
Do you see?
Like I want us to do it, so we actually can ask you all the questions of like the bumps we come up to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like that too.
But I think one of the roadblocks we hit was just the like cost of goods worksheet was just like weird for us.
Yeah.
Like we don't have a product, like one specific product we're
Right.
selling. It was like this, like again, our product is our service, but that's not really a barrier. But maybe it just seemed kind of confusing to us if there's something we're missing about.
Yeah, like what are the common inputs for us then? Like all we have to think of is like the food that our drivers have to eat to be able to pedal the thing have, but
Right.
is there something we're missing there that should also go on that sheet?
There might not be anything you're missing. No, I mean for a service-based industry, it might just be really light. So I'd say this is the other thing too about this is that I'm hoping that you guys are going to use these tools into the future and that you keep coming back to these. So if you want to if you get stuck on something, don't let it hang you up forever. Just plug in some kind of assumption. Just make something up, literally, and put it in there and keep going on the sheet. And then later when you come around again and make a better estimate about it, then you can refine those numbers, right? You're going to continually do this throughout the whole life of your business anyway. So you might as well just start now with plugging in numbers and
And that's
making it
what
go.
we did last year. We just made it up.
Right.
We had
And-
no idea how it's gonna go, and we're just like.
But now you have a whole year to look back on,
Mhm.
so that's going to be a lot more valuable to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys, it's just a matter of getting together.
We actually we had a financial meeting on Wednesday.
You came up with a
Monday.
system.
Yeah, we came up with a new system.
Great.
It was great.
We love systems.
We went through started to the system we came up with was for using invoice sheets and tracking our expenses and tracking old estimates so we can come up with new systems for making estimates.
That sounds good.
And using Google Drive for mostly everything. Stuff like that. But we need to go through these long range things.
And it would be great if we could do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. How about you guys?
We're not really anywhere right now because we don't have any figures to work with. I mean, we could make up everything, but I don't really have the experience, and I don't know if Eric does to generate even appropriate numbers. So.
What about Energy?
Excuse me?
Does Energia have any stuff they might share?
That's a good question. We haven't really approached them. I don't know if they'd be willing to share, but that's.
I think they might.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
So I think if you actually, even if you're doing this in an imaginary way, like some of you are not actually affiliated with a co-op, this exercise is designed to teach you how to do this stuff. So this is a tool that you have into the future. So if you go through this exercise with everybody else, even if you don't have real numbers in front of you, you're going to be more able to do this.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a volume of numbers that interconnect that just, by making things up, if you really don't have any basis for doing that, you're really gonna just get garbage in and garbage out. I don't know. I think
It's
talking
true
to
that
Energia
your
would be-
numbers are not going to be. It's true. If you put if you make up everything in your numbers, then yeah, your numbers are going to be made up. But in the process of doing that, you're going to see how they all fit in, so that you're going to know when you have good numbers later how to fit them all together. How about you guys?
I don't know, we definitely we haven't had enough time to really meet. Every week see each other in this group, like we're doing other kinds of things, but in terms of actually focusing on this, it's just Wednesday coming up here, and not all of us can make it every week, and so we're definitely behind. I think we just need to find a time where like a few of us can meet and sit down and just like plug through these numbers and figure it out and have some meetings with it. We have we've got 2 years worth of data to pull from in terms of customers that we've gotten and how much they paid and how many different types. Like I think we've got 2 major probably products that we would have in terms of like the transportation versus the public event ones. So I think we're pretty good at getting our 2 different cost of goods workshops together, worksheets together. And I have data tracked from the past 2 years of all of our different income and expenses. So I think we can do the overhead expenses, just like look at it from the first year and the second year, and maybe average it to come up with good estimates of how much maintenance costs and how much these other things kind of cost.
Okay.
So I think we just have to sit down and we'll be able to come up with something. And I think our main hang up right now is that we're not really functioning as a co-op. It's like a project that's working, but we don't, we're not paying salary or we don't have any wages. And I ideally want to get this up and running so that we can know that we're generating enough money from this to be able to pay some kind of level of youth stipends and driver hours and put that in there. But right now it's all pro bono work, and the money's just going towards, making sure that the bus can run, it's covering all the overhead, and then having some, buffer there in case of emergency repairs or something like that. So with that, we've been, fine for the past 2 years, and I think we have enough of a buffer that we probably could start paying, but I want to figure out that we can and not just jump in to start paying people and then suddenly wind up with, a repair that puts us in the red.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Do you feel like it's a reasonable goal and target that we should be shooting for in Co-op Academy to get you guys a balance sheet and cash flow statement and profit and loss by the end of this 12 weeks? Is that something that you want to do?
Yes.
That's your
Yes.
goal?
Yes.
Everybody?
Kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. It's my goal for you. Okay. Okay, and do you think the best way to do that is to try and do it in little chunks every week, or do you think it might be better to put aside, like, for example, the whole last session to just work on that?
I think having time here to do it in groups, especially for us, because we have an hour set aside every week for homework, and it's really not enough, but we're all going like above our paid hours to even do that amount of time.
Yeah.
And so if we can do
Okay.
even an hour of time here would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we meant to do, but it's like we have a lot of things we're trying to get through. So, with that in mind, I think we gotta move on to the next thing. Did everybody, so Matt was talking about the investments and fixed assets worksheet. Were people able to do that one? You guys did that in class time, right?
The depreciation one?
The depreciation, fixed assets and depreciation worksheet.
We didn't work on it individually. We went through it as a class, but we didn't complete it for our individual co-ops.
Okay. Alright, so that's just gonna be ditto. Okay. 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 Why don't we, let's see. Sorry, give me a second to reevaluate what we're doing here right now. I think maybe it's time to take a break. I think we need to take a break.
Sure.
Thanks, everybody.
Come back in what time?
Yeah, come back in 15 minutes. So, at 10 past 7. Is this the first time you've done like